So, welcome to the February 7th Problem Gambling Treatment Providers webinar. Like I had mentioned, this is probably going to be a short webinar. Our agenda today is really to just go over some PGS updates and announcements. I'm going to talk about the trainings and opportunities that we have out there, going to update you on the advisory committee that we have going on around workforce development, and then we're going to touch base on updates from our 5-year plan, where I'm going to just cover a few of the areas within our 5-year plan with some updates of what we here at the state have learned over the past month, what we plan to do, and then some suggestions that you in your own communities could do regarding outreach. So I've covered these many times, but here are the different training opportunities that we currently have going on in 2018 as far as webinars that you can attend. So we have the Family Therapy Learning Session, and those dates of April 19th, July 26th, and October 25th, so those happen quarterly. We have the Advanced Family and Problem Gambling Treatment Discussions, which happen also quarterly, with the dates of February 22nd, May 17th, September 27th, and November 29th. And then we also have the case training with Chris Anderson that occurs every month on the second Tuesday through August of 2018. So all of these different training opportunities do provide you with CEUs that can go towards your certification or recertification. And I just want to point out that we always have, we try to always have recordings of these sessions for those that cannot participate live, and those can be found on the OregonPGS.org webpage under workforce development. So those are some opportunities that we have going on. Then, of course, we have our all-provider webinar that happens quarterly. Our next one will be March 15th from 9 to 10:30, and you can register by going to the link on this webinar. And typically, we send out an agenda and the registration information via email to all of our providers around mid-February. And then we'll have another monthly treatment call, which we have almost every other month except for the months that we have all provider webinars. So our next call will be April 4th. We won't have a call in March due to the all provider webinar. So in mid-March, you'll get an agenda for the treatment monthly call and instructions for login. So you can always go to our 2008 training calendar and see all the different opportunities that are available for workforce development that are going on for 2018 that we're aware of at this time. So one thing I wanted to just point out, and I sent an email about this yesterday to all of our providers, so we do have the Focus on the Future Problem Gambling Conference coming up April 30th through May 3rd. So 2 days of pre-conference workshops and 2 days of general conference workshops at the Heathman Lodge in Vancouver, Washington. Registration did open last week, so you can go to the Focus on the Future website and you can either register online or you can download a registration application and complete it that way. So one thing to know about registration, we are receiving a discounted rate as Oregon providers because this is a collaborative conference that we are having with the Evergreen Council. So they have allowed us to have the Evergreen Council on Problem Gambling member price. And so when you register, you want to ensure that you get this discounted rate. And the way to do that is either by putting OHA code, which is going to alert them that you should receive the discounted price. You need to note that on your registration form somewhere. If you're using a hard copy or if you're going through the online registration, there should be a box on the registration, and I'm sorry I haven't looked, but this is how it has been in the past, that you can put this code in and it should give you that option. I provide the Evergreen Council with names of our providers and stakeholders that should receive this discount. So they take that code and they cross-reference it with the names that I've provided. And if one pops up that they are not aware of, then I usually reach out to that person and determine if they're one of our funded providers or one of our stakeholders and if they should actually have the discounted rate. So registration at the discounted rate that we're being received is open until April 1st. So if you're going to attend, I highly recommend that you get registered by April 1st to get this discounted rate. After that, then you will get another kind of discounted rate using the OHA code, but the price of the conference per day, or however you bundle your conference costs together, will go up after April 1st. So get your reservations or register as soon by April 1st. Also, ensure that if you plan to stay at the Heathman Lodge, they have a discounted lodging price for the conference of $139 per night. When you make your reservation, ask for the Evergreen Council lodging discount, and you should do that soon. I don't know when the deadline off the top of my head for that lodging rate expires, but it is while rooms are available. So like with most conferences we've done in the past, we do offer a subsidy to help cover some of the conference expenses. So along with the email that was sent yesterday about the conference, I also sent a separate, or within that email was an application form if you want to request a subsidy. This subsidies help compensate for what your employers do not cover regarding conference expenses, and those subsidies would be due to us by April 20th. You will pay up front all conference costs, lodging costs, and etc., and then what the subsidy reimburse, we will then present you with a check at the conference. So if you didn't get that email and you want to apply for a subsidy, you'll need the application form, which was included in the email. So please send me an email and I can resend that email to you so that you have that form, and then you'll have the stipulations. New this year, the lottery wanted to help with the conference, and so instead of just providing some sponsorship money to the Evergreen Council, they wanted to actually provide some scholarships to our providers. So they are offering 3 full scholarships for 3 people to attend the whole conference, pre-conference workshops and main conference, for 4 days. And that also includes lodging, mileage, and per diem for meals that are not provided at the conference. So that email also came out right after the conference and the subsidy email. So if you're interested in applying for that scholarship, and you didn't receive that email, or you can't find that email, please let me know and I can resend it to you. The deadline to apply for this scholarship is February 28th. And if you have any questions about the scholarship, like one question I have received but I don't have the answer to is does the person who applies have to attend all 4 days of the conference, or could they just attend 2, say just the main conference? And I don't have an answer to that. But if you have that question, you will need to contact Tom Moore, who's the one that's facilitating this scholarship on behalf of the Oregon Lottery, and he can answer that question for you. The reason I don't have an answer to that question is because Tom Moore's phone line was again cut on Monday, so he does not have access to email, so I cannot email him to ask him. So, but that should be up and going again in the very near future. So, just bear that in mind. If you've emailed Tom Moore recently over the past 2 days and he hasn't responded, that might be why. So anyway, if you have those questions, please direct them to Tom, or you can direct them to me and I will direct them to Tom on your behalf. All right, so I just then wanted to cover some online types trainings that are available. I just wanted to call out yet again that we have our problem gambling treatment training for clinicians and supervisors. This is 10 hours of CEUs that are available through 8 online modules. There are, like I said, different modules that you can choose from, and you don't have to take all of them. You can pick and choose which one has interest. That each of them provides CEUs separately. This is just another great opportunity for you to get your CEUs for either certification or recertification. And also, this is a great resource to share with your other coworkers in the addictions, mental health, and behavioral health fields in your agencies if they are looking for CEUs for their licensure or certification. This would be a great opportunity for them to get a little information about problem gambling and become a little bit more informed. So I just want to promote that yet again. And then recently I sent out some other online training options. Iowa Gambling Treatment Program is doing a Looking to the Horizon webinar series, and you can find out more information about the different webinars within this series and register for them at the training resource link that I provided. And also, Problem Gambling Network of Ohio has some live webinars that they put on periodically, but they also have some home study courses that you can do anytime. And I listed out the ones that they have available, and so you can find that on the website of that is listed for the network, the Problem Gambling Network of Ohio. So then I just wanted to cover a little bit of information about our Workforce Development Treatment Advisory Committee. So I've been talking about this committee and what their mission and purpose was going to be, and we recruited membership for it. We have about 10 to 12 different providers in the treatment realm of our system that are participating. We had our first meeting on January 31st, where the committee learned more about the purpose and focus of this group and the timelines. And so what they first did was determine what areas that we needed to collect data for in order to make recommendations back to the state on workforce development strategies. So they will be refining those areas and developing some survey questions or questions that we want to get answered. So in the future meetings, they will be drafting survey questions for numerous populations to be surveyed. Some of these populations are, of course, our problem gambling providers. Some will be behavioral health providers in the addiction and mental health realm. Some will be behavioral health students that are participating in either addiction study courses or mental health study courses. And then another category that we may tackle in the future is also clients. We may not be doing a separate survey for the clients. We may see what we collect from our client satisfaction surveys that go out to our agencies, and then we may add some additional questions on to that to reduce the burden of redundancy and just add them to the satisfaction and then get that information at a later date. So clients might not be an area that we're going to focus on right now because this is a time-sensitive committee, and we want to focus more on the professional area of the workforce development. So I just wanted to let you know, this is an FYI, that you can expect a survey to come out regarding workforce development from ACBO in late February, early March. So ACBO, every 2 to 3 to 4 years, depending on their time, does a survey on the workforce of those that are certified through their services. Typically, it'll ask questions about who you serve, what's your educational level, what's your pay scale, and different things. Well, this year they've expanded the survey to ask some more questions, and we have been fortunate enough to get a few questions around problem gambling integrated into this survey so that we can get some information from our other addictions professionals about problem gambling and what's being covered or what their knowledge level is, and then what's if they're serving or addressing this within their agencies. So we're very excited to get that data. So that survey will be coming out soon, and in case you are certified through ACBO, you should receive that. And then we expect to have those results by early May. And then also you can expect a workforce development survey to come out from our office here in late March, and this will be the survey with the questions that have been developed by this Workforce Development Treatment Advisory Committee. So I would expect that we will have more discussion about this in the future, maybe in our April treatment call, setting the stage for this survey to be completed. So this committee will take all that information, filter through all that data, and come up with recommendations to the state that by August of 2018, and then we will share that information with all of you. So that's the update from the Workforce Development Treatment Committee after we've had one meeting. All right, so is there any questions on that? Just give you a brief moment if you want to chime in. Okay, moving on. So now I just wanted to talk a little bit about, to update you on our PGS improvement plan. For you that aren't familiar, back in 2014-15, we went through a whole process to develop a 5-year improvement plan, kind of similar to a strategic plan around our system and things that should be addressed. So what came out of it is different work plans for the staff here at the state to address with 6 different initiatives. And if you're interested in all this, you can find these improvement plans and the work plan on the Oregon PGS website. And today I wanted to talk specifically about Initiative 1, collaboration, and one of the activities one of the initiatives within that larger plan. So one of the initiatives within the collaboration work plan is to reach out to representatives of state agencies and explore opportunities to partner on common ground initiatives where addressing problem gambling supports fellow state agency goals. So to some activities that we have completed just here this last February, actually in the last 2 weeks, is that here at the state, we met with the Department of Public Safety Standards and Trainings, crisis intervention team coordinators, and academy instructors, and I also met with the Department of Veterans Affairs Oregon Women's Veterans Coordinator. So what came out of those 2 meetings? So first, when you're talking about our collaboration with the criminal justice system, I wanted to just reiterate some work that has been going on since since early last year. In case you haven't been a part of these meetings or you just missed this, we are currently collaborating with the Department of Corrections to survey each intake that they have that comes through the Department of Corrections to determine the prevalence of gambling in those in the criminal justice system and the need for resources. So currently our system has some psychoeducational classes and treatment services available within DOC's system at the Coffee Creek Prison in Wilsonville and the Columbia River Correctional Facility up in the Portland area. So we were looking at expanding services and intensifying the services that we currently have going on. We were talking to the DOC's behavioral health coordinator of services within their system, and what they kind of wanted from us is really to have a better understanding of the need of services within their system. So they have allowed us to distribute this survey to each person coming into the DOC system. All people come in through Coffee Creek in Wilsonville, where they go through a series of different tests and different actions in order for the DOC system to determine where they're going to be sent for actual services and where they're going to actually stay, which prison they're going to be sent to, or correction facility. So we are distributing that survey. We began in August of 2017. The survey is kind of modeled after some of the similar questions that we asked in our general public adult prevalence survey. So we started in 2017, and we anticipate that we'll keep distributing the survey till about April of this year, and that is to ensure that we get a good sample size. We're hoping for about 1,500 to 2,000, and we also want good representation of each of the genders. So right now, there is far more men coming in through the system than women, so our ratio is a little off. So we want to get up into higher numbers to have a better ratio, have a better representation of women in our survey. So we anticipate that the results should be available in summer of 2018, which we'll then share with you. We're really excited to see these results because they can provide us a very good comparison to what our adult prevalence study said, and then we'll know the difference between the general population and those in the criminal justice system. So results from this study will then be used for further planning within the DOC system and what kind of services we need to set up. We would like to see set up or need to be set up in the DOC system. So this has been a really great collaboration with the DOC behavioral health people and then the intake coordinators at Coffee Creek. So we're really looking forward to the results, and not only are we really looking forward to the results, but the Department of Corrections is also really looking forward to see what the results of our survey say. So that's really exciting, so I wanted to share that. So then also this couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, I lose track of time, we had a meeting with the Department of Public Safety and Standards Training. So if you're not familiar with that department, that is the department that oversees all the training for law enforcement, whether that be your local law enforcement, police officers, EMTs, corrections, parole and probation. So all those that kind of are involved in the criminal justice and the public safety world. So I specifically met with the CIT coordinators and also the academy instructors. If you guys are not familiar with CIT, it stands for Crisis Intervention Team. So this is a program that is a national model for community policing that brings law enforcement together along with mental health providers, the hospital emergency departments, and also individuals that have interacted with these services with mental illness and their families to help improve the response to people who are in crisis. So CIT also has programs that provide training to officers, and many of our officers in our local communities are going through this 40 hours of intensive training. And so I've just kind of laid out on this slide what is covered in these trainings. So there's learning from mental health professionals and experienced officers in your community. There's personal interaction in these trainings with those that have experienced or recover from a mental health crisis, or family members who care for those that have. There is training on verbal de-escalation skills, and then scenario-based training on responding to crises. So this is a national program that is being heavily implemented into Oregon communities. And then if you see on my slide, I wrote in all capital letter. It's a really hot movement right now in Oregon behavioral health and law enforcement. So, so I'm calling this out because, I mean, this is the hot thing right now that's happening between behavioral health and law enforcement. So I went to the meeting and met with these two coordinators, and we came out with a few things that we were going to collaborate on or do for each other. So one of the things is I'm going to be providing them with some co-occurring information around problem gambling and other behavioral health issues, some basic PG information and crossover with the criminal justice system, and then some self-care that might be useful to those that they are training. So I'm going to provide this information to the coordinators, CIT coordinators, who are also the academy instructors, and they're going to determine how to infuse some of this problem gambling information into the addictions coursework of those that are going through their academy. And so, like I previously said, those that go through their academies will be law enforcement, police officers, deputies, those working in the DOC correction system, those working in the community correction system, and then I believe it's also parole and probation officers. So they have a pretty far reach, and they were very interested in problem gambling and incorporating it and working with a woman there who actually has a behavioral health background. So of this two CIT coordinators, one has a behavioral health background and the other one has a law enforcement background. So it's a very nice mix. So I'm very hopeful about that. And we're also going to be connecting with the State Sheriff's Association for possible partnerships, as that was a recommendation that they had for us. And then here at the state, we're going to attend the CIT regional training in March, which occurs here in Salem, and have a resource table with our information to bring more awareness of this topic. That regional training will have all the different CIT coordinators across the state in attendance, so there should be a fairly good turnout. They also do a monthly or quarterly, I can't remember which one it is, CIT newsletter to all their people that they network with, and they offered for me to write an article, which is really only a couple paragraphs, but that's really still very good. So I'm going to write an article to put in there around problem gambling. And then we also may look into, depending on how our partnership's going and how well this is received, we may look at doing a presentation at the Northwest Regional CIT Conference that occurs this year in October in Kennewick, Washington. So those are some of the things that they suggested and that we will move forward. So I'm just informing you because I feel like when it comes to our 5-year plan, you are the providers that hold us here at the state accountable for implementing the plan. So I just want to share with you what it is that was recommended of us and what we are going to do to further our reach and our partnerships. What I would ask of you, if you're interested, that would help further your outreach and your reach within your own communities, is that you could reach out to your CIT program coordinators, which are listed here on this webpage. And from what I understand from my meeting, they are always looking for people to do presentations, and they'd probably be more than interesting to have you come and do a presentation on problem gambling. You just have to tailor your presentation to fit the audience. Sometimes it can be a tough audience to speak to law enforcement, but we did have a provider who they did talk to me about that had done a presentation in this local community, and they were really thought he did a really excellent job. And really the one thing that interests those that were at the training was that he did a presentation on what your local lottery retailers look like, how many you have in your community. He went onto the lottery website, which you can find that information that will tell you how many traditional lottery retailers you have, how many video lottery retailers you have, how much profit is coming into your community around gambling. And that really drew his audience in, because he really did make it about that community. And so just a suggestion, so if you're interested in looking at a place to outreach, this might be a really good avenue, is to work through your local CIT program coordinators. Okay, so the other place, the other person that I talked to was a women's veterans coordinator with the Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs. So she recommended that we connect with the 5 VA hospitals here in the Northwest, which are located in Portland, Vancouver, Boise, White City, and Roseburg, and just connect with their services to see what they're providing and how we may be able to integrate some gambling treatment, or at least referral sources to those that may have a gambling problem, or just to determine if they're doing any identification and screening. She also suggested that we connect with the 5 vet centers in Oregon, which are located in Bend, Eugene, Grants Pass, Salem, and Portland. So these centers focus a lot on just mental health and PTSD, and she relayed the message to me that a lot of vets will go here when they don't want to go to the actual hospital. So it's a little more anonymous and confidential or private to go to these vet centers than to go to the VA hospitals sometimes. So she also recommended that we have a resource table at the annual Oregon Women's Veterans Conference, which occurs in April of this year, and about 400 women veterans attend this conference. So that is what we're going to do. Also, there is an annual Veterans Benefit Expo, which occurs this year, but no date has been determined yet in Ashland. So we'll probably see about going there or ensuring that one of our, if we don't go here as a state representative, then we may ensure that, see if one of our local providers is going to be going and can carry the information forward to not only their local resources, but to our statewide resources. So in the future, we're also going to coordinate to have some veteran-specific conference workshops within the conferences that we do, or specific trainings for you guys as providers. So we will look at putting that all in the fall of 2018 or the spring of 2019. So because we have the woman that I met with and her boss that might be interested in doing a presentation around veterans so that we can become more familiar with the concerns of those veterans, better methods to approach what areas interest them. We're the experts in problem gambling. We know that problem gambling is very high in veterans, but when it comes to serving veterans, we don't always have that area of expertise, so they could provide us with the training of the things that we need to know. Along with, there are many social workers and therapists at the 5 vet centers that are throughout Oregon who would also be very helpful in presenting. So that's what we're going to move forward with planning, and then we'll just continue our partnership and keep exploring opportunities for partnership and integration. So what can you do regarding these partnerships that we made with the Veterans Affairs Services? What I learned is that each fall, every county has what is called a stand down, and this is a great place to reach veterans. It's a Veterans Affairs event. It typically focused a lot on homeless veterans in the past, but it doesn't so much anymore. But it's a great place to have a resource table to share the resources that you have available in your community and make connections. I do know that Azusa from Lincoln County went to her stand down, and that is actually how I got in touch with Elizabeth, who's the person I met with at the Department of Veterans Affairs. So it's a great networking place for Azusa, and I wish that she was on the call today so she could talk a little bit about her experience, but she's not. So this is just something to look to determine if you're interested in doing this. Then find out when these stand downs are occurring. Like I said, they usually occur in the fall in every county. I went on the website and I couldn't find any calendar for that information. However, each county also has a Veterans Service Office, and it was recommended by Elizabeth that a connection with that person there might be very beneficial. That person could probably tell you when this stand down would occur in your community. So I have provided you a web link so you can determine where your Veterans Service Office is and ask to speak to your Veterans Services coordinator there and educate them on problem gambling and the resources that you have available, how it impacts the population that they serve, and they may have local conferences and ideas for where you can do additional outreach and have resource tables or make presentations. So that would be my recommendation if you're wanting to outreach to this population, to go through those those 2 areas as a starting point. The Veterans Services Office and that contact person there might be a really great resource to even give you more ideas of where you could do outreach to the veterans in your local community. So, not saying that you have to do any of this, just letting you know that these are the areas, populations, high-risk populations that we are approaching and working with for partnerships at a statewide level, and how that can filter down into your local communities. All right, so that is the end of my presentation today. Like I said, I didn't have a whole lot to share, so it's only 3:40. Is there any questions? Nobody has any questions at all? Okay, then I am going to let you go early today because I know you would appreciate an extra 20 minutes in your day. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to send me an email or give me a phone call. Otherwise, thank you for attending our webinar today. I hope I hear your voices again on March 15th for our All Provider webinar, although we don't hear voices on that call. We only we mute you, but maybe you can chat with us because Roxanne and I always appreciate that. And if I don't hear from you sooner, thanks, and I hope you're all enjoying this beautiful weather that we're having this week, and I hope that we're all having it across the state. So thank you so much for participating today, and I will talk to you all in the very near future. Bye.